Extemporaneous speakers are much like members of a secret society. They disappear into their own private room, a wonderland where normally ordinary students shrug off their inhibitions and discuss world-defining issues like international relations, American hegemony, and why Bernie Sanders will not win the 2020 Democratic primary. Probably. Like all secret societies, its reputation is a facade. If we peel back the misty layers of Extemp, we soon learn everything. Extemp isn't a secret society. It's a group of sleep-deprived teenagers desperately skimming New York Times articles looking for important statistics, while simultaneously trying to remember the proper pronunciation of the Peruvian president. It's either Vizcarra or Vizcarra. Who even knows? Probably him. Let's be honest. He probably knows his own pronunciation. Extemporaneous speaking, usually just shortened to Extemp, is a competitive public speaking event that takes place within high school speech and debate competitions. The rules of Extemp are quite simple, and even form a nice rhyming couplet. Answer a current events question in a persuasive speech, given 30 minutes to prepare and 7 minutes to speak. Preparing comprehensive arguments in a limited amount of time isn't something we're normally expected to do. If your coach has volunteered you to do Extemp in the next speech tournament, it can even seem impossible. Luckily, with a little dash of practice, a nice sprinkling of moxie, and a hefty helping of humility, Extemp isn't just possible, it's even survivable. I'm Mallory, and I'm here to help make your error-filled Extemp adventure just a little less bad. This video is the first in a series meant to give you the tools needed to succeed at extemporaneous speaking. Today, it's all about the basics. We will answer the question, what is extemporaneous speaking? And in order to do so, we need to understand the rules, watch an example speech, and then talk about the future. A quick note before we begin. Extemporaneous just means without preparation. And there are many, many ways to speak without being prepared. But this video focuses on the NSDA High School Speech and Debate Extemporaneous Speaking. In an unfortunate turn of events, the NSDA is both the most popular and most difficult form of extemporaneous speaking. But that also means if you can do what the NSDA wants you to do, then you can do anything. Well, maybe not anything, but most things extemporaneous speech related. Extemp is sometimes compared to Thomas Hobbes's Life Without Society. It's nasty, brutish, and short. While nasty and brutish are opinionated words, the short time frame is undeniable. Let's go over that definition one part at a time. Answer a current events question in a persuasive speech, given 30 minutes to prepare and 7 minutes to speak. Current events question is a question on current events. It's basically something your CNN watching parents might ask you when they run out of things to talk about at dinner, and because they know you do debate and their only experience with public speaking is through America's never-ending election cycle, they assume that you are uniquely knowledgeable to answer meaningless political questions. So, Mallory, will Donald Trump win re-election in 2020? I'll be chewing for the next 37 minutes, so take your time in answering. Or something like that. Some example questions could include, does America's emergency relief fund have enough money? Will China bring stability to South Sudan? Why are there so many mattress stores? The purpose of Extemp is to be persuasive. You're not persuading the judges to sharpen their plowshares into guillotines, but you are persuading them that your answer to the current events question is the best answer to that question. By the end of the speech, you will have hopefully answered the Extemp question and supported that answer with argumentation and evidence. Every Extemp speech begins by reporting to a special preparation room. Usually this is a large classroom or a small auditorium where all the other Extemp speakers are gathered. And this is where the magic happens. Some sort of neutral arbiter will begin that 30-minute countdown by providing you 2 or 3 current events questions, and it's up to you to pick one of them and answer it. After selecting the question, you have 30 minutes to start researching before you have to speak. This research period will hopefully transform you from, "I know nothing about the relationship between South Sudan and China. Help," into, "I wish I knew nothing about the relationship between South Sudan and China, but I can explain in a 7-minute speech exactly how
steeped in neocolonialism it is."
As it currently stands, the term researching doesn't mean what you think it means. The National Speech and Debate Association's official high school competition guide explains,
"Students may consult articles and evidence they gather prior to the contest, but may not use the internet during preparation."
This means that everything you can use to research the current events question has to come into the preparation room with you. Usually, this is a mix of magazines and Dropbox folders full of downloaded files. After the 30 minutes of preparation, it's time to report to the room with a judge. The judge is usually a debate coach, although sometimes they are a poorly paid member of the community, and their job is to judge you. They are the person that decides if your 7 minutes of extemporaneous speaking is better than the other competitors in the room. The judge is the target of your persuasion. They decide your fate. Winning and losing is up to them. They also provide helpful time signals to keep you within the 7-minute limit. So stand up in front of that judge, take a deep breath, and speak for 7 minutes. And that's Extemp in a nutshell. Now let's do it. Much like America's infrastructure, I'm old and a little bit rusty. So I got my good friend, Extemp authority, judge, and cameraman, David, to write me a few Extemp questions. And as soon as I read these, I'll have 30 minutes to prepare and then 7 minutes to speak. Here goes nothing. May I have your time signals, please?
Yeah, of course. My time signals are normal, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once we get to 30 seconds, I'll give you this. This is 15. 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Whenever you're ready.
In 2004, a virus hit American and world computers. This wasn't your typical virus to show pop-up advertisements for inappropriate substances, but instead was a social media virus. Politico, November 10th, 2019, explains that Facebook, after its creation in 2004, was originally meant as a community platform. But because Facebook wanted to make a lot of money, they shifted from that community platform aspect to started selling advertisements, specifically political advertisements. Now, what this Politico article is getting at is what is coming up in the news today. And a BBC article on the 1st of November 2019 explains that Facebook is recently under pressure for its allowance of political advertisements without fact-checking. This means that anyone who claims to be a political organization could create an advertisement on Facebook's website and have that website be implemented without a problem. So, because Facebook has so much reach, because there are so many people using Facebook, and because in 2020 America's election is more important than ever, we must ask today's question. Is it Facebook's responsibility to check the truthfulness of political ads on its platform? The answer is unequivocally yes, it is. Because the product that Facebook is selling is the advertisements, and because it's making so much money from faulty processes, there's no reason Facebook shouldn't be responsible for the money that it's making. We'll examine this in 3 aspects. First, by looking at how it's achievable. Next, by how Facebook is already responsible. And finally, because Facebook's negligence is causing a lot of damage. To begin, we must examine how Facebook can actually solve this problem, despite what its executives might want you to believe. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, in a 2019 speech before Georgetown University, explained that it wasn't really his fault for not restraining political advertisement, because it was impossible. Because Facebook couldn't do it, because there were too many different advertisements and too many different definitions of what true is. Well, for Facebook, this is actually patently false. Maybe Mark Zuckerberg needs a lesson on what truth is. Because, as a Business Insider on November 10th, 2019 explains, Facebook already has the power to check advertisements. In fact, it checks every non-political advertisement. So there's already that infrastructure in place for Facebook to solve this problem. It just needs the go-ahead from the executives at Facebook, specifically Mark Zuckerberg, in order to actually solve it. Now, the international third-party checking organization, Truth in the Third Party, that Facebook already uses, says on its website that it is willing to solve this problem. It is willing to check those political advertisements. But Facebook's inaction is preventing it from doing so. So the first clear reason why it's Facebook's responsibility is because there is a clear course of action that Facebook needs to take. It's just choosing not to. Now next, we must examine how Facebook is already responsible. Now, Mark Zuckerberg explained in that Georgetown speech that Facebook isn't responsible because it's just a third-party platform. And it's actually the responsibility of the people lying, not Facebook, for having the problem. An NPR article on November 10th, 2019 explains that this is Facebook's strategy. They love to distract from the idea that they're the responsible party and instead blame the liars for the situation. The problem here is simple. Because Facebook enables those organizations to lie to a large number of people. Specifically, Facebook doesn't want to be seen as sort of infringing on the free speech, especially when large tech companies already are under fire by conservatives for sort of impressing conservative values. Facebook doesn't want to continue that trend. While the company as a whole might not publicly do that, the individual workers do. And a group of Facebook employees wrote an open letter to the New York Times back in October of 2019, which explained that Facebook's algorithms aren't just a billboard that goes up on the side of the road. They are specifically targeted at individuals, making it possible for Facebook to take these fictitious and false political advertisements and target people the most vulnerable. So when Facebook says it's not being political, it ignores the fact that its algorithms are inherently political because they allow falsehoods to spread to the individuals that are the most vulnerable. Now finally, we must look at the damage that Facebook is causing and therefore how they can reverse these actions and stop some of that damage. Now, Guardian article, the 10th of November of 2019, explains that Facebook is in a peculiar situation right now because they already have significant evidence, both from the Mueller report and a number of other organizations, that say that Russian and other international organizations have been trying to affect America's elections, both in 2016 and in 2018. Now, the full extent of this foreign intervention isn't exactly known, but what is known is that they are using fictional news and Facebook in order to deliver those falsehoods. So, we already know that these false news from international organizations has called into question both the 2016 and 2018 election. And now it's Facebook has the possibility, and in fact, the responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen in 2020. So, when we look back at today's question and understand why Facebook is responsible for fact-checking its political advertisements, we first examine how Facebook has a clear course of action. Next, how Facebook is already responsible, even though it pretends not to be. And finally, because Facebook and Facebook's negligence is already causing damages, specifically damages to our democracy. The first Extemp speech I ever gave was during my junior year in high school. I spoke for about 3 minutes, I didn't answer the question, and I kept citing the same Fox News article because the only advice I could remember was an older teammate telling me whatever I do, don't cite Fox News. I wasn't a great listener. But it's not surprising that I was terrible. Because everyone is bad at Extemp. Because Extemp is really, really hard. Creating and performing an engaging and persuasive 7-minute speech given only 30 minutes of preparation is basically impossible. Even the best competitors still make mistakes. That's just the reality of the event. Your goal as an Extemp speaker isn't to be perfect. It's to be less bad than the other guys in the room. The other dudes. Darn it! Gender language! In the next video, we will go over the structure of a typical Extemp speech, explain how to make crafting a 7-minute speech much easier, and go over which Roald Dahl character from the novel Matilda makes the best Extemp metaphor. Special thanks to David Trebethek and the Colorado College Speech and Debate team for making this video possible. Without you, I wouldn't have the experience to teach Extemp or a camera to film me. You're the best.